The diner smelled of burnt coffee and frying oil, the kind of place that stayed open late and pretended to be friendly. Outside, the neon sign flickered, fighting the darkness of the empty highway. Inside, a boy no older than 10 stood near the counter, his thin jacket hanging loosely on his shoulders. His sneakers were worn, the laces frayed. He kept glancing at the menu, lips pressed together, as if memorizing the pictures instead of the prices. "Are you going to order or are you just here to stare?" the manager snapped. The boy swallowed. "Sir, I don't have much money. I was wondering if I could just get some fries. Maybe later I could—" "No." The manager didn't even let him finish. "This isn't a charity. Customers pay or they leave." A waitress nearby slowed her steps, clearly uncomfortable, but said nothing. The boy's cheeks burned red as a few people at nearby tables looked away, pretending not to notice. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a handful of coins, placing them carefully on the counter like they were something precious. "This is all I have," he whispered. The manager barely glanced at them. "That won't even cover a drink. Take your change and get out." The words hit harder than a shove. The boy nodded, quickly scooping up the coins before anyone could see his shaking hands. He turned toward the door, shoulders slumped, hunger twisting in his stomach like a knot he couldn't untie. As he pushed the door open, a cold gust of night air rushed in, carrying the sound of distant engines. Outside, he paused on the sidewalk, staring through the glass at the warm lights and plates of food. His stomach growled, loud enough to embarrass him even though no one was there to hear it. He wrapped his arms around himself, debating whether to walk away or sit on the curb and wait. Wait for what, he didn't know. That's when the sound grew louder. A deep rumble rolled down the highway, not one engine but many. Headlights appeared in the distance, moving together like a single unstoppable wave. The boy turned, eyes widening as a line of motorcycles pulled into the parking lot, chrome glinting under the diner's flickering lights. One by one, the bikes parked. Big men and women climbed off, leather jackets creaking, patches stitched across their backs. Laughter echoed in the night as they headed toward the entrance. The boy stood frozen beside the door, unaware that the next few minutes would change everything. The door swung open as the bikers entered the diner, their presence instantly changing the air inside. Conversations at nearby tables faded into awkward silence. Boots thudded against the floor, leather jackets brushed past chairs, and the smell of road dust mixed with coffee and grease. The manager looked up from the register, his confident scowl stiffening for just a moment before he forced a tight smile. "Evenin'," one of the bikers said, a broad-shouldered man with a gray beard and calm eyes. "Table for 8. The manager straightened. Yeah, plenty of room." He grabbed menus, suddenly polite, suddenly careful. "You can sit wherever you like." They chose the long booth near the window, the same window the boy now stood beside outside, hugging himself against the cold. From his spot, he could see everything, the bikers laughing, pulling out chairs, setting helmets on the table like trophies from long miles on the road. One of the women bikers noticed him first. She paused mid-laugh, her eyes narrowing slightly as she looked through the glass. "Hey," she murmured to the others. "You see that kid out there?" The gray-bearded man followed her gaze. His smile faded. Inside, the manager launched into his practiced friendliness. "What can I get you folks to drink?" "Coffee," someone said, "a lot of it." As the waitress hurried off, the bearded man stood. He walked toward the door, the room growing quiet as people pretended not to stare. He opened it and stepped outside, the cold air rushing in behind him. "You all right, kid?" he asked gently. The boy flinched, then nodded too quickly. "Yes, sir." The man crouched slightly so they were eye level. "You hungry?" The boy hesitated, pride warring with truth. His stomach answered for him with a low growl. His eyes dropped to the ground. "A little." The biker smiled, not a mocking smile, but a warm one. "Come on then, eat with us." I don't have money," the boy said quickly. The man waved it off. "That's not your problem tonight." They walked back inside together. The manager's face tightened the second he saw the boy re-enter. "Hey, I told you." The bearded biker's voice cut through the room, calm but firm. "He's with us." Silence fell like a heavy blanket. The manager opened his mouth, then closed it. He glanced at the table full of bikers, 8 of them, all watching him now, Slowly, he nodded. Fine, he muttered, one kid. The boy slid into the booth, surrounded by strangers who suddenly felt safer than the warmth he'd been denied minutes earlier. A menu was placed in front of him. Order whatever you want, the woman biker said kindly. No rush. As the boy stared at the menu in disbelief, the manager retreated to the counter, unaware that this small decision, this moment, was about to teach him a lesson he would never forget. The food arrived in waves. Plates of burgers, fries piled high, steaming bowls of soup, and stacks of pancakes crowded the long booth. The boy's eyes grew wider with every dish that landed on the table. For a moment, he just sat there, unsure where to start, like someone afraid the whole thing might disappear if he moved too fast. Go on, the gray-bearded biker said softly. It's okay. The boy picked up a fry and took a small bite. His shoulders relaxed instantly. Soon he was eating properly, careful at first, then with growing hunger. The bikers watched him with quiet smiles, passing him ketchup, sliding plates closer, making room like he'd always belonged there. Across the room, the manager pretended to wipe the counter, his eyes darting back to the booth again and again. The laughter from the bikers was loud, easy, filling the diner in a way the manager didn't like. It reminded him that control could shift without warning. When the waitress returned with refills, the gray-bearded man spoke. Ma'am, he said politely, we'd like to cover his meal too, and whatever he wants after. The waitress nodded, relief clear on her face. Of course. A few minutes later, the boy finally slowed down, wiping his mouth with a napkin. Thank you, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I've never eaten like this before. The woman biker reached into her pocket and placed something on the table, a small folded bill. For later, she said, in case you need it. The boy's eyes filled with tears. He shook his head. I can't. You can, she replied gently, and you will. When it was time to leave, the bikers stood together, jackets on, helmets in hand. The gray-bearded man walked up to the counter and placed a thick stack of bills on it. That should cover everything. The manager counted quickly, his expression shifting when he realized it was far more than the total. Sir, this is too much. The biker leaned in just enough for his words to carry. The extra, he said calmly, is for the way you treat people who have nothing. The manager swallowed. As the bikers headed for the door, the boy followed them outside. The engines roared to life, shaking the pavement. The gray-bearded man knelt one last time. Remember this, he told the boy. Kindness always comes back around. The boy nodded, clutching the folded bill in his pocket, warmth spreading through his chest that had nothing to do with food. As the motorcycles disappeared into the night, the diner felt colder than before, and the manager stood behind the counter, staring at the empty booth, knowing he'd just learned a lesson that no amount of money could erase.